Hey everybody, Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I'm coming at you today with I guess a new series, I'm going to call it, for this channel. I was fortunate enough to be invited into the National Pokeball League, which is basically a GBA-like league if you're familiar with that. Basically how it works is that each team in this league undergoes a draft process, or each coach rather, undergoes a draft process to draft their team. And each coach is allowed to draft 10 Pokemon and 1 Mega. So I was actually an expansion team for this league. This is the second year rather that the league has been in action. So all of the coaches that were around last season were allowed to draft before all the expansion teams. So in a sense, the expansion teams had a negative priority in the draft. So the Pokemon that were available to me were a little bit worse than what many of the other coaches were able to draft before the expansion draft, but it's okay. I was still able to pull some pretty good Pokemon in the draft, and I'll describe these a little bit later on. But basically the point of this video is just to introduce what this league is all about, and let you guys know that I will be coming at you with about one upload per week from this league, and that upload will be a battle either on Pokemon Showdown or on Wi-Fi. Against fellow coaches in this league as I compete through the regular season and hope to achieve the playoffs. So it'll be a pretty fun experience. I'm not familiar really at all with how these battles are going to work. I've only had one exhibition game at this point, so I'm pretty raw at this, so I hope I do okay. But I'll do my best, and hopefully I can come out in the playoffs and maybe even win this thing. So that'd be a pretty fun experience, but you guys will get to watch me as I develop as an MPL coach, I guess. So yeah, let's go ahead and go through my draft picks so you kind of know what my teammates are as we go through this season. So I was fortunate enough to have the first pick in the expansion draft because I did do quite well in the round robin that I discussed in my video with Cheeseboy628 about a week ago at this point. So with my first pick, or my first 3 picks rather, each was a 3-year contract. So this is where I was picking Pokemon that I want to build my team around over the next several years. So I decided that it was in my best interest to pick up 3 heavy sweepers instead of 3 defensive Pokemon, mainly because the best defensive Pokemon were already drafted in the original draft, and I found that I would more easily be able to pick up defensive Pokemon in later rounds of the expansion draft as opposed to these heavy physical sweepers that were still available to me early on in this draft. So with my first pick, I picked up Gyarados. As you can see here, this is going to be my list, so you get a little bit of a sneak peek before I get to them. But I picked up Gyarados. I found that Gyarados was the best available Pokemon in the draft at this point, as it does have incredible sweeping potential. It can come in with an Intimidate, it can hinder your opponent's Pokemon and set up in its face, or if you're not threatened by the opponent's Pokemon, you could even run a Moxie set and get a cheap KO and a +1 attack boost and start sweeping even quicker. So I found that Gyarados was a very solid option with its access to Dragon Dance and of course Substitutes. Unfortunately, I'm not able to run Mega Gyarados. We're only allowed 1 Mega throughout the entire season, and we'll get to that pick here a little bit later. You see it down there, Mega Venusaur, but we'll get there. But I picked up Gyarados for that reason, and then with my second pick of my 3-year contracts, I picked up Hawlucha. Hawlucha is kind of going to fill a similar role to Gyarados in that it'll be a heavy physical sweeper. However, the difference here is that Hawlucha is in a very unique speed tier, so it'll be able to handle threats that Gyarados cannot. Hawlucha is going to outspeed all the base 100s and stuff that is slightly faster than that as well. So I expect Hawlucha to put in quite a bit of work in these matches, especially after getting the Unburden boost, which I no doubt will be abusing. With my third pick, I picked up Volcarona. Volcarona is a very heavy special sweeper. Panda's kind of going crazy behind me because he absolutely despises Volcarona, but I decided it was still in my best interest to pick him up because I would not want to face Volcarona, and also I noticed that pretty much all of my opponents are going to struggle against it as well, as the only true counters to Volcarona are going to be Dragon types and then the super fat Pokemon like Chansey and Blissey. So I realized that and decided that Volcarona would be a great option for my team, as it's going to force my opponent to strategize to be prepared for it, and that's exactly what I want, because I want to be able to plow through the opponent with other methods as well as Volcarona. So that is how I spent my first 3 picks, and then with my next 4 picks, they're going to be 2-year contract Pokemon, so I'll have them for this season and for the next season as well. So with my first pick in that section, I picked up Alakazam. As Alakazam is a very versatile Pokemon, obviously it's going to be a special sweeper, but I can run Life Orb, I can run a Focus Sash, both of which are very scary options for Alakazam. The Focus Sash set, I can even run Counter on it for an additional check to heavy physical sweepers. And obviously it has great coverage in Psychic, Focus Blast, Signal Beam, Energy Ball, Hidden Power, and more. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how much work Alakazam can do this season. With my second pick in this section, I picked up Empoleon, mainly because of its stout defensive typing and its access to Stealth Rock and Defog, both very important utility aspects of this Pokemon, and my team was obviously in great need of these at this time, especially considering I have Volcarona, who absolutely dies at the thought of rocks. So that was the thought process behind Empoleon. And then with my next pick, I picked up the channel mascot, Wobbuffet. There was no way I was going to let Wobbuffet go to anyone else, and I knew that some other coaches in the expansion draft were strongly considering Wobbuffet at this time, so I thought it was in my best interest to go ahead and pick it up here. Wobbuffet obviously is great at trapping and killing. If something is trying to sweep my team, I can just send in Wobbuffet, counter or Mirror Coat respectively, and take the threat right out. So Wobbuffet's going to kind of be my safety valve, in that if my opponent has something that my team really struggles against, I'm going to tailor Wobbuffet such that it is going to remove that threat before it becomes too big of a problem. So that's the plan there. And then with my next 2-year pick, I picked up Gligar. It was the best physical wall remaining at this time, at least the best physical wall that actually has utility other than being physical. So I have Gligar for its ability to use Stealth Rocks, Defog. It also gets access to Counter, it gets Earthquake knockoff. It also has immunity if I'm not running Defog, so that's going to be a nice little benefit in that it cannot be poisoned, which makes it all the more difficult to take out, especially with access to Roost, as a very reliable recovery. So then we move on to my final 3 picks in the regular draft, and each of these are a 1-year contract pick. So after this season, they're not going to be mine anymore. So I decided to just take some stabs at what was remaining, knowing that I can drop these and replace them with free agents later on in the season. I believe it's week 10 or 11 when that is available. So with my first pick, I ended up getting Azelf. Azelf being kind of a late round steal in my opinion, in that it's able to be very strong on the physical side and the special side, in addition to being a fantastic stall breaker with Taunt and a Nasty Plot. So I picked up Azelf for that reason, but I actually ended up issuing a trade, or it will be a finalized trade after week 1, with my buddy Trevor, in exchange for his Tornadus T. Tornadus T being a faster stall breaker with access to Regenerator, and more or less the same offensive coverage and versatility. So I found it to be a good trade that benefits both of us, and I'm quite excited to have Tornadus T join the team after the first week. So with my next pick in the 1-year contract slot, I picked up Entei, mainly because my team has very little to no priority. Empoleon at this point was the only thing I had that could even learn a priority move, I believe. So Entei was kind of a necessity with that +2 priority extreme speed, and then of course the ever so helpful Sacred Fire burn chance. So I expect Entei to make an impact maybe once or twice this season. Maybe I can make a couple teams that are more tailored to making Entei shine, but we'll see what happens throughout the season. But that was the reasoning for picking Entei, and then finally I picked up Vaporeon in my last 1-year slot, as Vaporeon is a fantastic utility Pokemon, fantastic support Pokemon, with its access to Heal Bell and Wish, and I believe Haze as well, so it can be a nice phaser if I'm a little worried about an opponent trying to set up in my face. So I have Vaporeon for that reason. Vaporeon is, however, on the trading block. I'm definitely looking at some other options. If something catches my eye, I would not be discouraged from trading Vaporeon for something. And then with my mega pick, I noticed that my team was quite weak to electricity, and I decided to go with Mega Venusaur as a result. Now, Mega Venusaur also allows my team to have a pretty solid Fire, Water, Grass core, where I have 3 water options in Empoleon, Gyarados, and Vaporeon, 2 fire options in Volcarona and Entei, and then Mega Venusaur to round off the combo. So I picked up Mega Venusaur for that reason, and I've also noticed, like, in the actual GBA League, like the official one, that Mega Venusaur has a very good time, especially against the very random movesets that I can expect throughout this season. So I'm expecting Mega Venusaur to be a very big player for my team throughout the season, and hopefully will remain the glue that holds my team together. So that's kind of the overview of what my team is all about. Now I'm going to go ahead and just kind of show you guys the other teams in the league, since they're not all shown on my screen. There's 2 other teams here that weren't shown, the Green Bay Palkias and the Phoenix Sunkern. The Phoenix Sunkern are actually coached by my friend Cheeseboy628, so very good friend of mine. Definitely check out his channel. And some other kind of threatening teams in this league, the Detroit Gale Wings, are actually the team that is being coached by the general manager of this entire league, K2. Also check out his channel. I'll link link all the channels of these guys in the description below. Just check them all out. They're all really cool people. Some of them haven't uploaded much yet, but they're all very good battlers, so definitely worth checking out. So now let's go ahead and move over to my team page so you can kind of see the schedule for all the games I have coming up in the upcoming weeks. It's a 14-week schedule, so that's kind of cool, and it actually is starting this next week. So on the week of February 22nd, I'll have my first game against the New York Metangs, which are coached by Razor Wolf, a very cool, very nice friend of mine. His team is pretty threatening. He does have a couple mons that I'm going to have to prepare quite carefully for, as my team was an expansion team, so I don't have the best of options available to me, so I'll have to make do on that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this first week matchup, and I hope you guys are as well. But that'll about wrap up this video. I hope you are looking forward to this as much as I am, but hope I didn't bore you guys too much too. But anyway, I will see you guys later. Peace.